Welcome to the Fabulous Fifties and Beyond. I'm Jim Pollard, your co-host with my wife, Jeanetta. And again today we're going to be talking about hospice, Lourdes Hospice program in Western Kentucky. We're talking about the need for volunteers, and we're also talking about the different types of volunteers and the work that you can do. Our guest is Susan Mason. She's a volunteer coordinator for Lourdes Hospice program in Western Kentucky. You stay tuned and we'll be right back.
And he'd say go with what you got. Start from where you are. Give it your best shot. Keep reaching for that star. Get in the race. Keep your own pace. Keep moving and never stop. Just go. Go with what you got.
I'm Jim Pollard, your co-host.
And I'm Jeanetta Pollard, and we welcome Susan Mason today. We're so glad to have you as our guest.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on here.
And you are the volunteer coordinator for the hospice program for this area.
Yes, that's correct. I am.
And we cover how many counties?
We cover 13 counties. We cover 3 counties in Illinois and the other 10 in Kentucky. So it keeps us busy.
I'm sure it does. And so you're always looking for volunteers. Am I right or wrong?
Yes, Jeanette, I am. I'm always looking for volunteers. We are required by Medicare and Medicaid to provide so many hours every month with our hospice program. So it is a requirement, but also it is just a wonderful service to our families and to our patients for someone to be able to go out and help them.
Well, it's, and not only that, but it's good for the people. I mean, I think, don't most people, when they get into it, that they really enjoy doing it?
Yes, they really do. Basically, I tell people that if you know how to be a neighbor and you know how to be a friend, you can be a hospice volunteer. Volunteering with hospice, of course, sometimes I say it's not for everyone. You are working with a terminally ill patient, meaning someone that has 6 months or less to live. Of course, we don't always say that person has to leave this world in 6 months, but they do have a terminal diagnosis.
Right.
What we do, our volunteers, they try to make the best of what a person, the life that they have left, they try to help them make the best of that. Maybe take them down to the river front and watch the birds, take them out to get an ice cream cone, just drive around. Basically, it's just maybe bringing a little bit of sunshine into their life.
And they desperately need it.
Yes, they do. The most important thing that we find that we need in volunteers is the family has been with this patient 24 hours a day. Sometimes when a patient becomes terminally ill, they might get their days and nights mixed up possibly. And sometimes, they're just somewhat, I don't want to use the word demanding, but they require a lot of hands-on and just a lot of someone being there with them. So the family needs to get away and maybe go to church or go to the grocery or just kind of get out for a few hours. So our volunteers provide that respite for the family so they can just get away from the home for a few hours.
While we're talking about volunteers and the different type of work that they do, I think it's well that we note also that if someone does not think they would feel comfortable one-on-one with someone, that there is also a need for clerical work, administrative work, and things in the office or people to drive and things like that. What are some of those avenues?
Right, Jim, that is correct. We are always looking for volunteers that can come into the office and provide some copying, some mailing, some filing, phone calling for bereavement families. So we could always use some folks that can come in maybe a couple hours a week or 4 hours a week and assist in the clerical duties. We do have some patients that require to go to the doctor or go maybe to a Western Baptist hospital and receive some radiation for palliative care, meaning just to keep them comfortable. And sometimes they don't have transportation to get there. So our volunteers can actually provide that transportation and go and sit with the patient and just kind of, you know, be their support person. So those are some things. Also, in addition to those two things, we have volunteers that can go to the nursing homes. Our patients, the nursing home is considered their home, and a lot of times these patients maybe don't have a lot of family support. So our hospice volunteers somewhat become their family support and go and visit them a couple of times a week and maybe bring them some clean clothes and bring them some snacks and just read to them and provide some support to them.
And sometimes it's just listening to them, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Just listening to them talk.
Absolutely. We say sometimes they just kind of reminisce and talk about what they used to do as a child. We had a volunteer not too long ago that went to visit a patient when it was snowing, and she and the patient kind of looked out the window. They were looking at the snow as it was coming down, and it just brought back some memories to the patient of what they used to do on snowy days. And before the volunteer left, she heard about all her sledding days and ice skating and hot chocolate and things that they used to do on snowy days. So that was wonderful for both of them.
I know our program is, of course, geared toward people over 50, but I think young people would really enjoy getting to know some of these older people and hearing their stories.
Absolutely.
It's fascinating.
Yes, we have had some high school students, some college students that have gone into the homes and nursing homes and provided that support. There really is not an age limit to volunteering. The only thing that we say is that, you know, you need to be able to have transportation or someone to be able to take you, you know, to see your patient. The only requirement of our volunteers is that you need to go through the 12 hours of training that we offer. And we provide that there at the hospice office. And then also during that 12 hours, you actually get to go out with one of our hospice nurses and go out on some visits and get to meet some patients and kind of see what the nurses and how they all interact, you know, together. Because it is a team approach. We all work together as a team to provide that care to the terminally ill patient.
Tell us the different components of the team.
Okay, we have an RN that goes out and she provides the symptom control, pain and things, if there's some pain, and she works very closely with the patient's doctor and with our hospice director if that doctor wishes for our hospice director to be involved in that care. And then we have the personal care aide, and that's a person that goes out and provides personal care, you know, bathing, shampooing their hair, doing their nails, putting clean sheets on their bed, maybe preparing a very light meal, running the vacuum and things like that. And then we have the pastoral counselor, and that's a person that goes out and provides some spiritual care. They don't take the place of the person's preacher or priest or whatever religion they are. They just add some extra support if you prefer to have that. We also have the social workers, and they go out and just kind of provide community resources. A lot of our patients maybe have been unable to work for the last several years or last several months, and they don't really know how to go about applying for different state funding that can help them with this and things like that. And then, of course, we have the volunteer, and we say the volunteer is kind of the heart of our program. They do things that the paid staff's not able to do because of maybe a time frame and things like that. So the volunteer can do, the only thing that we say a volunteer, they're not able to administer any medication or do any heavy lifting of the patient, but other than that, they can do whatever, you know, support the patient in any way. So that's our team approach.
Okay. Well, that's good that people understand that. And again, we want to emphasize that the program is not only a homebound program, but it's for nursing homes and some even in the hospital, that wherever the patient is that has the need, and that it's open to anyone in this area.
Absolutely. And I was glad you mentioned homebound, because our hospice patients, a lot of people get maybe home care and hospice confused. With a hospice patient, you are not required to be homebound. We want you to be able to go out and drive through the park with someone. We want you to go out to dinner. We want you to go to church, go fishing and things like that. You know, hospice is about living. It's about living your life to the fullest and symptom-free and pain-free. So you are not required to be homebound. So that's one thing that I do want to stress, Jim.
That's very interesting that you said it's a living thing, you know,
Right.
because you think of yourself as dying.
Right.
But you're trying to make their last days the best that they can be.
Right, right. And
To live it to the most.
Right, and that's, a lot of people say, you know, how do you deal with death and dying every day, and isn't that sad for you? And no, it's not, because I do not, and we do not look at hospice as you know, the end. We look at it about living and living your life till the very end, and living it till the fullest. So that's the way we kind of approach that.
Well, isn't it a song that says, "I hope you get to the point to where you live your life till the end," or something?
Yes,
You
yes,
know,
I
it's a
can't
country
remember
song.
yeah, I think
but,
so.
Talks about going out skydiving and riding the bull. And,
Right, right, absolutely, yeah. So,
well, that's what we need to do. We need to be able to, you know, live life to its fullest. You know.
absolutely.
And enjoy it as
And
much
enjoy
as you
it.
can.
Yes, absolutely. Laugh a little and
Yeah.
and all of that. So,
Well, listen, we're halfway through, believe it or not, and we're going to take a break, and we're going to have an announcement, and then after we come back, we'll talk about some of the aspects. And you remember, we're looking for volunteers, and all types of volunteers to do all types of work, and we want to encourage you to call Susan. Her number will be up on the screen, and volunteer, or at least go in and talk to her about some of the aspects of volunteerism with the Lourdes Hospice program. So you stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
Can't see us.
We didn't have much to give then. So when they showed up, firing them mean looks around the place and staring us down on prices, well, I was angry. Didn't seem to bother my father, though. He had me load another bushel of apples in their trunk. I learned later on that this family was in need.
The greatest gift we give, it's in our heart, what we believe, the way we live.
Caring for others. Pass it on.
And he'd say, go with what you got. Start from where you are. Give it your best shot. Keep reaching for that star. Get in the race. Keep your own pace. Keep moving and never stop. Just go. Go with what you got.
I'm Jim Pollard, your co-host, with my wife Jeanetta. Our guest today is Susan Mason, who's the volunteer coordinator for the Lourdes Hospice program in Western Kentucky. We're talking about what volunteers do, and they do just about anything, whether it's one-on-one with a patient, or it's office work, filing, typing, making phone calls, answering the phone. So you see, there's a place for you, and that's what's important, is that you realize that whatever your talents are, there is a place and a need for you in this hospice program. And from what we're hearing, we need volunteers today, because as the program grows, as people become more knowledgeable about what hospice does, then more people become part of the program, and therefore the need for volunteers grows each and every month. Hospice is a great program, and the knowledge that we've gained over the last few weeks about it, that we're trying to impart to you, we think is very important, because it's a program that for everyone who's nearing the end of life. I guess that's the easiest way to say it, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And it can be a real good experience for you. And as Susan and I were talking, some people don't like to talk about death, but it's part of living. We're going to die. There's no two ways about that, even though we don't like to talk about it. Some people don't like to talk about it. Jeanette and I talk about it all the time. We talk about how we want our funeral to be and things like that. Of course, I'll be 70 in June, so I guess as you get older, you're getting closer. But I always said I was going to live to be 100 anyway. So I want to be on Willard's program. But it was amazing. Last week he had people 105, 106.
Right,
Yeah.
absolutely. We've had several patients in our program, 101, 102.
Wow.
I think our oldest one was 103. So, and she was still very alert and knew what she wanted, and she absolutely knew what she did not want also. So, absolutely. It's kind of funny, Jim, as a nation, we will talk about weddings, we'll talk about graduations and the birth of babies, and we'll plan and do, but it's hard to talk about, end of life and death. But I encourage everyone to have that talk with your loved ones, and go ahead and have that talk and decide your wishes before there is a crisis in the halls of the hospital, wondering what's mother want, what's dad want.
Right.
Go ahead and have those talks with your loved ones instead of waiting till they're in a situation where they cannot tell you what they want, and you're guessing and wondering what would mom or dad want. So
Yeah.
We just had my cousin's wife's funeral last week, and the minister said that he was surprised that Sharon didn't leave a note for her daughter, make sure that Kenneth, her husband, is dressed right for the funeral.
Right. Yes. That is.
You can add humor into into their lives, and I think that's good. But we do need to talk about death. We do need to talk about what we want done at our funeral, or what we want done if this or that happens.
Right.
Because you don't know.
Absolutely. I know when my own mother passed away, that's one thing she stressed to me was, I don't want you all sitting around gloom and doom and crying. I want you all to have a nice meal, and I want to have my makeup on and to look good, when I die, and I want you all to be happy and not be sad, all the time. So that was something that I had talked with her about. So
Well, we've always said we want our services to be a celebration.
Absolutely.
It should be a celebration of their
celebration.
life. Yes.
And it is so important to celebrate, our lives. And I always say, make memories. Go out and make a memory. I remember when my husband was doing a lot of golf with our son, and I would say, go out and make memories. Because it's so true.
She's big about that also. We did some workshops at our Santa convention, and that was one of the things she did at her workshop, was telling them to make memories.
Yeah, make memories.
And of course, we've been in the Santa business for a long time, and the mothers will bring their teenagers in sometimes and want them to have pictures made with Santa. And a lot of them do not want to do it. I said, do it for your mother. You are making memories, and someday you'll look back at these pictures and enjoy it.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't hurt you to do that.
That's right.
I mean, Santa's not going to bite you.
Santa's not going to bite you, no.
Or anything.
We had one lady come in, and she was probably 8.5 months pregnant. Looked like she's going to drop the baby at any time. And her mother brought her in, and she said, she's going to sit on your lap. Said she's 23 years old. She's had her picture made sitting on Santa's lap ever since she was a baby. She's going to do it this year. Next year, I'll bring her and the baby both in.
Oh, yes, that's cute.
Now, that's really neat. But we do need family traditions. We need something.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, family traditions.
But then you can
so
sit around
important.
and talk about it.
That's right.
Even though they're gone, we talk about her mother and my mother and dad. Yeah, we were doing a thing on biscuits the other day, and they were a documentary on making biscuits and eating biscuits on KET, and they were using the different things. She still has the Vienna sausage can that my mother used to cut biscuits with.
That's what I use.
And Mother's been gone how many years now?
I think since 84.
Yeah, you know,
Something
she
like
still
that.
has it
A long
to cut
time,
biscuits
anyway.
with, you know.
Yeah, a long time.
Yeah, that's. I know my own father. We used to make biscuits on Christmas Eve, and I've carried that tradition along and make biscuits on Christmas Eve for my own children. And it makes me feel closer to my own father on Christmas Eve.
Our Christmas morning breakfast tradition started at my grandparents' house. We have country ham and eggs and grits and biscuits.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's a
Southern.
yeah, a good Southern breakfast. Yes, that's wonderful.
What?
So.
You know, traditions. I did a program this last Christmas for one of the cable systems, and they were doing a program on traditions and the young people. There was young guys shooting it, and they said, "Boy, I like that." And he says, "We're going to start some traditions this Christmas." A young married couple just got married that year, you know. And I said, "You need traditions that you can pass on, you know."
Yeah, they're so important. They are so important in your family. They really are, because it's just what makes you as a person to carry on those traditions.
Well, we need to talk about this. Go ahead.
Kind of tickled. We would just visit our son in Florida. We were down there for four and a half weeks, and one tradition that we always had was on Saturday morning. We always had a big breakfast. You know, the biscuits, the eggs, the bacon, you know, whatever, all this stuff that they say is not good for you. You know?
Right.
But all on Saturday morning. So Barry had made sure that he had a little can of Crisco so that I could make biscuits when I was down there to visit.
Oh, that's cute. So you all did that on the Saturday morning you were down there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
That's
wonderful.
So it was just part of it. But you know, and again, hospice is I think that's part of what you do. We impress, you know, these traditions. You need these traditions. You've had these traditions. Talk about them.
Absolutely,
You know,
absolutely. And a lot of our volunteers can help families with these traditions, to carry their traditions on and their memories. They'll help make maybe a memory book and help put photographs together, or get out their albums and they look at them together and kind of tell a story. And it's really good for the patient to be able to tell that story with those pictures, you know, in addition to just getting out.
You know, I'm convinced that most people have had more good experiences than bad.
Absolutely.
So the memory book or the photo book brings back the good during tough times.
Oh, that's so true.
And,
that's so true.
I used to do different types of training and all, and I used to draw a big white circle on a whiteboard, and then put a speck in it, and I'd say, "What do you see?" And they'd say, "Well, there's a speck in the middle of that circle, or in that circle," and that's what most of the people would say. I said, "No." I said, "That's a big white circle with just a little speck in it." I said, "Don't focus on the defect. Focus on the good."
Focus on the good, because there's a lot of good.
And by looking at those, it brings back the good. Because people don't make pictures of bad things; they make pictures of good things.
Absolutely,
you know?
Absolutely.
Well, I know one thing that you had talked to us about in training that was very interesting was the man who he and his daughter hadn't spoken for years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it had been over, I think, 20 years, and they had gotten together, and the social worker had gotten them back together. So that was a beautiful story.
Yeah.
That's just exciting. Mm-hmm. You know, it really is.
Yeah, that really is. That's
okay. We need volunteers in the office. We need volunteers in the field. We need volunteers to drive.
Right.
We need all kinds of volunteers. And now, does everybody take the 12 hours training, whether they work in the office or?
The office people are not required to take the 12-hour
Okay,
training. The only
okay.
training that they're required to take is the confidentiality,
Part of it,
the
okay.
TB skin test, background check. Every volunteer, whether you work in the office, every employee does a background check. So that's very, very important.
Okay.
But no, they don't have to do the 12-hour training. It's about a couple hours.
I
Okay.
think it's very important for us to tell people that a hospice worker never ever talks about their patients to anybody else.
Absolutely.
And people need to know this because
Right.
they don't want somebody going around and telling all their family secrets or whatever.
Absolutely. So because you may end up volunteering for your next door neighbor, and going into a patient's home, that's their home, and whatever you hear in that home stays in that home.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's very important. Confidentiality is very important in our hospice work.
Well, Susan, we're about out of time, believe it or not.
Okay.
And this has been very informative and enlightening, and this is what we kind of want these programs to be. And we want to encourage you out there who are watching that call Susan. Her number is up on the screen. If you can volunteer an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours or more a week, it's real important that you do that and that you let her know that you're available. And we want to encourage you to volunteer to help out in this program as it continues to grow. And you can get in touch with us on the net at thefabulousfifties.net. That's 50 spelled out. Or you can write us at our post office box, and our number is, Jeanetta?
Post Office Box 7, Bose, Kentucky 42027.
Remember now, use it or lose it.
Can't see as well as I used to. Can't run as far or as fast. Sometimes I think that the old me is becoming exactly that. But when I start thinking of all I don't have, that's when I tell poor me Beethoven was 50 and deaf as a post when he wrote his Ninth Symphony. And he'd say, go with what you got, start from where you are, give it your best shot, keep reaching for that star. Get in the race, keep your own pace, keep moving.